the most important step you take when you want to start your relaunch? So say you want to relaunch your career, you've been out for a while, what's the most important step to take?
So the most important step to take when you're relaunching is to figure out exactly what you want to do. It sounds so obvious.
No, it's hard.
But and it's hard,
Yeah.
and people tend to skip the step because it's hard, because it's critical. Think about how we got into our careers in the first place. Sometimes we just fell into something right out of school without a lot of thinking, or else maybe we were fulfilling someone else's expectations. So the career break can be a gift because it's the first time we allow ourselves to step back and reflect on whether we were on the right career path to begin with.
Having said that, I mean, there's only so many jobs out there, and you've got to do this self-assessment.
Yes.
You're already feeling so out of it. So can a self-assessment be very depressing, or how do you make it a positive, productive experience?
Well, we say you have to figure out whether your interests and skills have changed or have not changed while you've been on career break. And the longer you've been out, the more important this is. So you need to go through an exercise we call the job building blocks worksheet process, where you look at each of your significant prior work and volunteer experiences, and you identify which components from those experiences you love the most and are best at. And if you go through that exercise for all your prior significant experiences, you will come up with a pile of these selected components, and you can build back up a new career path for yourself. You can do that on your own, with a group of trusted friends, with a career coach, or sometimes with guidance from your alumni career services office at your college or university.
I like it. What are some of the biggest mistakes people make when relaunching?
So first of all, they skip that career assessment step. I did that myself. I went right into a financial analysis job without thinking twice about it because that's what I had come from. And it wasn't until I was well into that role that I realized I didn't really want to do that intensive spreadsheet analysis part of the job. I loved meeting with company management. I loved the business writing piece, writing up the investment opinion. I loved presenting the investment opinion. But that spreadsheet analysis piece, I knew I wanted to let go of. And here I involved a very progressive employer who was willing to hire me when I could have avoided that situation of going into a role that I eventually left if I had done a career assessment first. And that's why we are so loud about communicating to our population that the career assessment piece is so important, because to learn from the mistake that I made and don't make that mistake themselves.
It's so vital. At the same time, you might feel like, you know, you're doing that self-assessment, but you might feel already like you're so rusty, and your you know, industry, whatever it is, whatever talent you might have had 10 years ago, you know, everything's changed.
Right. So when you go through this career assessment process, you might fall into one of three camps. Either you were really fortunate in that you were on exactly the right career path to begin with, and then you return to that same field, and we can talk about how you update yourself in a minute. Or maybe you loved what you were doing before, but there's something about that role that's no longer compatible with your life stage.
Right.
Maybe spontaneous travel requirements, or 50% travel, or 24/7 accountability. So you go back to something that's related to what you did before, but maybe not exactly the same thing. And then there are those of us who realize we were not on the right career path to begin with, and we end up relaunching our career in an entirely new direction. So when you're going through any of those options, you do have to update skills. And you can update skills either in a self-directed way, where I did this myself. I studied my old finance books, looked at the old transactions I worked on. A very important step was I got in touch with my former colleagues, and I grilled them on what are these new anecdotes that are being used? What are these new financial products? Explain them to me. How do they work? Why do we not use the old ones anymore? So that was a very important part of my updating process too. But now, it's not 2001 anymore, it's 2017. There are programs at academic institutions, executive education programs, certificate programs, individual courses that you can take. Plus, there are all sorts of online resources that we didn't have before. And so you can take part in any of those when you're figuring out what you need to do to update yourself. let me give you one specific piece of advice about it, though. When you're looking at a certificate program, for example, and they're on very specific topics like fundraising and development, or managing a political campaign, or landscape design. First of all, by taking that program, you can put on your resume that you have recent and relevant coursework. You're signaling to an employer you're really serious about relaunching your career.
And it's something you can talk about in the interview process.
Absolutely.
Volunteer work, do you put that on your resume?
You absolutely put volunteer work on your resume if it's relevant to your career goals.
Okay.
So we call it strategic volunteering, taking on volunteer roles that are in line with your career goals. And there are some great resources for that. There's idealist.org and volunteermatch.org for role-based volunteering. And then there's catchafire.org for project-based volunteering, which is often remote.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.